YouTube, hello, welcome back to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Going to be going over the dungeon ranking event in the Sunsin cave today. Just going to go over my team, what I've been trying, or what I built up, the path that I take, and just kind of go from there. So I'm using the same team that I've been using for the escalation battle, so it's a little bit extreme when it comes to some of the defensive capabilities and a little less focused on the offense. So you'll see here on the backhand for Tifa, I've used the Twinkling Star, which is just an HP and physical ability potency to get her HP up a bit higher. Otherwise, just straight up offense, much attack as I can give. Really focused on the R abilities, trying to get to that boost wind potency 8 and that boost physical ability potency 6. And then on my other characters, which I'm using Aerith and Barret, they're basically just here to do support. So Aerith is here for healing and reducing wind resistance and physical defense. And then Barret is here to lower the enemy's damage while also giving us an option for magic defense buff. But yeah, this is just important to give us that magic defense buff, which is really the only reason we're bringing it. There's not a lot of magic damage in this area or in this dungeon, but it's still nice to have, especially because one of the buffs that we get are that our physical defense and magic defense tiers go up by +2, which is great because both of those can get us up to then +4 with the defensive buffs that we get, which is awesome. That makes things a little bit easier for us to be able to take some attacks. So other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it just means bring your wind DPS, bring a support, and bring something that can lower magic attack or lower physical and magic attack. The other thing that you're going to want to bring, one or both of Isuna Darkness and Isuna Poison. There are two enemies or two fights in this where one of them inflicts darkness and another one inflicts poison. You can use the Zantetsuken from Odin to knock out the adds in those fights, so that way they don't get the darkness down and they don't get the poison down. I found that the darkness is less likely to stop, and I found that the poison drops off quick enough that I'm not super concerned about the poison. So I'm not bringing Isuna Poison, but if you are struggling with it, make sure you bring it in with you as well. Other than that, basic strategies here. You want to bring wind resist down. You want to bring some kind of defensive capabilities. You want to bring a wind DPS, and then X sigil break for all of the fights that you're going through. I'll post a little image that I made for our guild here on screen that you can pause here and just take a peek at kind of what these rewards are, what kind of path you can take, and you can kind of plan it out for yourself. But we're just going to hop right into this here. We're going to use a physical attack team first, and I'm going to kind of explain my process as we go through here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to fight the behemoth before anything else. The reason why I want to fight the behemoth before anything else is because there is a group of a random encounter in this area that is resistant to wind damage, resistant to wind, remember. So that makes that fight very, very difficult for your wind-based team. So as a result, what I've done is I've brought a couple of electric options because they're weak to electricity, including Electro Cannon on Barret and a Thunder Blow on Tifa. For this fight, pretty self-explanatory. We're just going to make sure that we get this down here. We're going to try to debuff damage, get exploit weakness on. And obviously with the Primal Behemoth, does a lot of physical damage here, so you're going to want to get your physical defense up as quickly as you possibly can. That's the last one that lowers your physical defense. Do an area of effect attack again. We're going to take some decent damage here, but we're just going to jump into defense mode right now. Take this body slam. This will probably do about 2,500 or so. About 35, yeah, 3,500. Go ahead and get that heal off. And before we use an attack here, we're going to get the Floral Flare down. And so now the hope here is that we're going to try to get as much damage off on this behemoth as we can. We should only need 2 attacks to take it down. And this is with the Tifa. If you can't get it down, it'll stamina charge here. Again, it's only 2 attacks, so you can just line it right up. Go ahead and just queue up another Blessed Aura. You can wait for this Rampage because it gets a defense debuff here, and then put the Floral Flare back down. As you can see, doesn't really matter. 2 attacks gets it down. Pretty skate. Now, obviously, as you're seeing here, you're seeing me do a lot of damage. I have OB10 of their new wind weapon. If you don't have OB10 of this weapon, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but that's not that big of a deal. Focus here is trying to showcase the actual strategy. So I'm using a physical wind team that's focused on single target damage. So I see here we've got physical defense plus 100, which is cool. Wind potency plus 40 is good. Single target ability is plus 30 is great. I'm not using magic attack, so I can skip over this one. This one's 30% physical attack with -1 physical ability ATB. So this will allow Tifa to cast more often, getting that physical attack up higher and quicker. So we're going to take that instead. Well, we can fight the zoo really quick. All right, so with the zoo fight, you do want to focus on the sides because these guys are a pain in the butt. Gotta go ahead and debuff. And I'm gonna pop her overspeed really quick because I want to try to get as many attacks off as possible to try to take these things down. There we go. Gonna pop the defense mode really quick. That way we can tank on this Great Gale. Switch back to offense mode. And then we're gonna switch back over to this one, just take down this before it's able to get this double Zog off. Yeah, there you go. There you go, not too bad. And then obviously here we're just gonna focus on DPSing the zoo down. This should only take one hit at the overboost level that we're at right now. And obviously we just boosted up our damage as well. So we should be dealing with these fights relatively easily now. I'm gonna save the Cactar that was right at the beginning of this dungeon for last. Mostly because it's just not much of a threat. As long as you've got a physical defense buff, you should be okay. So this one, if you see wind potency up, I don't have any wind potency up in this build, so I'm not going to worry about that. We've got wind resist down tier, multi-target ability up 100%. This lowers my summon potency by 90, so I'm not going to take that one. I'm just going to take the 40% extra wind potency and move on. Going to grab this chest. This should be the encounter that I was talking about. Yep, perfect. So these guys are all resistant to wind. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the fluorescent flurry up, so we're going to get the exploit weakness up. And then all we're going to do is just spam Thunder Blow. Barrett's going to keep using energization, and that'll help get some AoE damage down. A couple more of these Thunder Blows should take out the side. And there we go, one down. Wing Stage does have an ability to like hit your entire team with Volplane. Here it comes right now. I'm gonna switch to defense mode. You can see I just turned it on auto battle here. This is a relatively easy fight when it's this early. But if you don't have an electric ability, this is possible to clear still, but it makes it a lot more difficult than it needs to be. So you're better off just coming into this with some kind of answer to these. She'll buff up her own attack again, and now all we have to do is focus down the middle and we'll be good to go. This one, if I recall, I don't think this one is resistant to wind, so you should be able to hit this one with the wind attack. Let me double check. Nah, that one's not. So you can't hit the middle with wind. But the sides are resistant to wind, so you do want to bring some kind of an electric attack to make sure. Oh, it's the one in the middle that heals. Durr. Relatively easy, though. We just keep focusing it down now. We just keep popping our damage. One more wind strike should take it down. And we're good to go. Okay, we want to make sure we grab the chest. And then as we grab the chest, we're going to head back all the way to the side here, and we're going to fight the Ginatak, I think it's called. Yeah, the Ginatak. This one is going to summon two little ads, and the two little ads have the ability to put Doom on your team. So obviously, because they're not listed in the fight here, that means you don't have to knock them out. You can just take this thing down. But when it gets its gauge up, it gets a shield, which makes it take a lot less damage. So I like to try to focus down the sides first, make sure I get that poison taken care of, and then we turn and focus on this to get the sigil break phase done. So we're just gonna give it a shot. We should have the overspeed gauge filled up relatively well here, which you can utilize to use a Runra blow. I have a Runra on because I'm silly. But we're just gonna focus in on just taking down this thing's shield. There comes the Doom, and what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna immediately pop all of our ults. I don't believe this will take out the sides because at this point the level is a little bit too high, so we are going to get hit by Doom here. The satellite beam will do a little bit more damage because we have that 300% extra limit break, so that does for a little bit more. And then this Santetsukin's going to come in, hit for about 430. I don't think that takes out the sides just quite. Yeah, not quite. I probably should have used Tifa's limit or her ultimate weapon there. That's my fault. Okay, and we just keep popping off here. There's the poison, but again, the poison shouldn't be too big of a deal. Just need to hit this 2 more times. All right, perfect. Now we're gonna get her exploit weakness up and just start spamming everything off. For some reason, the should only be a couple more hits here. And then we're just going to use these one more time, and then we're all set. So that was a pretty unclean fight. Obviously, I didn't switch to defense mode for there, so I took a lot more damage there than I needed to, so my score is going to drop as a result. That'll take everything out. Perfect. And then we're just going to move straight ahead here because there's a set of cactars in this corner. And the cactars will drop a mega elixir for us, which is pretty important. So here, pretty obvious, we're just going to take the 70% physical attack. This is also pretty good with the wind resist down, the extra wind potency, and the single target damage. But this gives us an extra 2 tiers of physical attack. So ultimately, I don't know which one's better. I'm gonna play test with it a little bit, but this is the one that I've been taking to clear this. Gonna hop into the corner here, kick these cactars' butts. This one you can stay in offense the entire time. The damage that they deal is always set at 3,000. So you don't have to sit here and like go into defense mode. It's not gonna reduce the amount of damage you take. So just keep it in offense mode, get your diamond filled back up from the dread. And that way, when you go to fight the burnt cactar in the next room, you'll be able to have your command gauge filled up for the next fight. This next one should knock it out. There we go. I think I cast that a couple. Nope, we're good. So you can't see behind me, but Tifa's currently at +5 attack. You can see it on the other characters. This helps clear this out pretty quick. Again, you don't have to switch to defense mode here. You're going to take 1,000 damage each. It's set damage, so don't worry about it. Fairly cut and dry. Woo. And at this point, you've got so many buffs from all of the extra trance abilities that you've been picking up from all the fights you've done that you should be able to clear this without any issues. All right, so that takes care of that. Let's see, it drops a mega elixir. The first time you clear this, by the way, it also drops 500 blue crystals, so you do want to make sure you clear this at least once. Here comes another set of ads. This should give us all of our limit breaks if we haven't gotten them already. As always with these fights, you can come in here and just like spam your Thundera blows and just like get it charged back up that way. All right, we're gonna grab this last chest here. Fight the burnt tar. Go ahead and get ourselves set up here. Okay, and then we'll switch to defense mode for this thunk. Do have +4 defense, so this shouldn't do too much damage. This will obviously still hurt, but should be fine. Yeah, 2,000 damage, no big deal. All right, so we want to make sure we don't attack until this goes back up to full. And then we're going to use our attacker tuning here. And we're just going to focus in just purely on damage here. Just going all in on damage. One more to take it down. There it goes. And that'll do. So easy fight. That one's not terribly hard at all. You can also go in with your limits if you need to. We did just, work on getting all those limits up. So if you want to use the limits there, you can. Because the idea here is that we would actually go into the next fight and use the mega elixir, which gives you your limit breaks and your summons back anyways. So you don't have to think too much about that either. At this point, we've gotten everything that we need. So all we need to do is go finish the last fight. I'm going to take my score boost here with the wind potency and extra single target damage, which makes Tifa do a lot more damage. And then we're just going to head into the extra fight. So I'm not going to do the A rejector here. We're going to be doing the, I forget the name of it, but we're going to be doing this fight instead. The Gallon Balor Humus. So if you are struggling with this fight, by the way, it does do earth element damage. So if you needed to bring in something to help you with that, you could look at any kind of earth resistance. So like the Fairy Tail as an example has some earth resistance. So you can look at that instead of the Bahamut Rod if you needed to. We're going to go ahead and use our elixir, mega elixir here. Get everybody max back out. At this point, I probably don't need to, but I'm just showing you what you can do here. Increase our wind damage with Tifa using the Aurora cocktail and just pop right in. Extremely powerful boss weights. You bet. I'm in. All right, so at this point, again, this is a very simplistic. We're just going to go in and do some damage here. Want to make sure we get all of our stuff activated first, get our buffs on, get our debuffs on. You can see we get the irate here. I'll take that down. Okay, so after this interrupt gauge goes down, by the way, it's immediately going to hit you with an area of effect physical attack. So you want to switch to defense mode here to take less damage. And then again, you wait until this goes back to full. We're gonna pop our gauge here. And then use all of our limits. And the Zantetsuken should do a little bit more than Tifa's attack still. Tifa's doing about 2.7 million with all the buffs, and that did about 3.1. And as we've seen before in other dungeon rankings, right, the max damage that you do with one attack does have an impact on your score. So when we check out the individual score here, you can see the one hit max damage. We got that 3 million, which gave us 36,000 points. Gives us a little bit more points than we would have gotten otherwise. So just keep that in mind, food for thought, as you continue with your progress or with your attempts. And that's it. Fairly simple. Obviously, I have OB10 with the wind weapon, but there's a lot of really good physical options for wind. You can look at Yuffie's diner tray as an option. You can look at even Tifa's motor drive would clear this pretty well. You would obviously need a physical attack all allies then, because that's what the power of Tifa's new weapon is, that you have the physical attack all allies built into that weapon. But that's not terribly difficult. You can always bring in, if you have Kimura Wand, you can bring in Kimura Wand. If you don't, you can look at Angeal and Stalwart Integrity, which just gives you the physical defense and physical attack buff that you need. And he also has a single target, but an available debuffing weapon with type 91 longsword, I think, is the physical attack and magic attack debuff. But yeah, so like I said, this is fairly simplistic. Once you've got the path down, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. And like I said, the only real difficult part in this dungeon is that one random encounter. The rest of it, as long as you've got your X sigil breaks, you've got some decent heals. You saw that I really didn't dip below, even when I was in offense, and that thing did about 9,000 damage when I didn't switch to defense mode, the Gin attack. Other than that, most of the enemies don't do a ton of damage in here. That's actually why we start with that behemoth first, because it does so much damage with its being able to lower your physical defense by a ton of tiers. It does big AoE damage with body slam. So making sure you start with that fight first and leaving the rather weak, with all due respect to the Burntar, rather a weak Burntar for last, and then just grabbing the score buff from there is probably the best way to go. Other than that, in terms of like the magic build, I figured I would, the date changed. Sorry, it's 4 p.m. Eastern as I'm recording this, so we're getting we're getting the day over. Hang on one sec. All right, so we're gonna build the magic team together. Now, I haven't really even thought about this. I'm just gonna build this together with everybody here, just so we can like have a good thing put together here. The two strongest magic damage wind dealers in the game are between Aerith and Cloud. And Aerith, I'm gonna keep using as a wind damage or a wind debuffer. In my head, at least, that's kind of where I have it. We might adjust it because I do have Yuffie's outfit, the wind outfit from the holiday event, available as an option, so we could look at that as well. But I'm thinking right now that the holiday blade, which I do have at OB6, I think will probably be a decent enough damage for me to prioritize using Cloud here. I don't have the Arcanum, but I think I can use this attack all allies Bahamut Garb as a way to increase our damage across the board. In terms of the other weapon, Cloud doesn't have an offhand weapon that's necessarily great for magic attack. The only ones that he really has that are great options are the Bandage Sword has a decent magic attack stat, gives your entire team magic defense, which is going to be something that we need, so we're going to consider this. But I want to try to focus in on damage here. I think the best option is either going to be one of his event weapons, which that one obviously, because that's physical ability potency, but like one of his event weapons, or the Mithril Saber, which gives magic attack and some magic and just ability potency. This isn't a great option, but it's still something. It's an option. You could also look at the Buster Sword because it just gives boost attack and boost HP, which isn't too bad, and it gives you a little bit of both. I think I'm leaning towards the Mithril Saber though. I think that's probably going to be our best option. It'll max out the rest of our magic attack, or at least get us close. Well, I'll just level this up to 110, and that'll do it for us. So I think I'm down to say at this point that Cloud is my secondary DPS in this. So I am going to make him bring the magic defense buff because he doesn't have the Arcanum and Yuffie does. I want Yuffie to have the Zantetsuken for this fight, or for this area. And we're going to give Cloud Blade Beam as an area of effect option for limit breaks. And I think that'll be a nice alternative. We're going to go for magic attack here. Obviously, like I said, we're going to give Yuffie all the biggest ones. So let's give Cloud all of these instead. And then we do want to have an X sigil boost materia somewhere in here. All right, and then for this, we want to do magic attack all allies because obviously we want to try to boost up Yuffie's damage as much as we can. Cloud is also going to need a little bit more magic attack because we took off the we took off the Mithril Saber. So a great option for this is actually the Hugin Immunin, which gives 62 magic attack and 26 magic ability potency. If you don't have this at OB10, and this is a little bit lower level, there are a lot of really great options, such as the Electro Cannon, which is a great option, would also max out your magic attack, give you some more magic ability potency. And I've actually just convinced myself that that's the route we're gonna go, because that gets Cloud up to that boost 6 sweet spot that I like so much. And then for the last wind potency weapon, we're gonna go ahead and switch over to potency, go to wind potency. We're actually going to give him one of the boost HP options, because obviously his HP is in a decent spot right now, but it's not exactly at what I would call good. So we're just going to bump it up to 19,000 here. That should be good enough. And that's going to be our Cloud for now. I'm going to switch over and we're going to put Yuffie on the squad. And then for Yuffie, we're going to go ahead and give her the Holiday Cheer outfit, which gives her that nice Arcanum buff. Going to use the Holiday Bell. And then for the offhand weapon, we've got a couple of options here. Really, the only good one is the Crystal Cross. Hopefully they start releasing a couple more good magic offhand weapons that are a little bit more generically good. What you really want here, if I'm being honest, is that new weapon that she just got released into the featured pool, the little stopwatch, because that gives HP and magic ability potency, and gives you a physical attack debuff and a physical defense buff, which would make this very simple. I don't have that, so what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to bring in specifically the 4-point shuriken. Although it's not as good as the other one because it only does mid to mid, it does give us a physical attack debuff, which will make some of those more difficult fights a little bit easier to manage. I don't have her ultimate weapon, I just have the one from the shop, so we're going to go ahead and equip that. Going to go ahead and give her Zantetsuken, and then at this point, you can see here, right, we've got 42 wind potency, we've got 52 magic attack, which we're actually going to just level this up to get us to the maxed out spot here. I think if we get her up to 110, that should be more than enough magic attack. Because I think this one goes up to 62. Yeah, 56, perfect. So what that means is for our build now is that we don't need to have a single magic attack sub-weapon. We can just look at wind potency, we can look at magic ability potency, and we can look at other types of offensive abilities, right? So first thing we're going to look at is going to be HP, because obviously we want to have a little bit of HP for these tougher fights. So I'm going to do HP and magic ability potency and power soul. We're going to be looking at other wind potency options. We probably only need one wind potency weapon here to really get her done. Let's see. Got some options here. Obviously the Prism Rod is the one that Aerith would normally bring. This would get our boost HP up to a point that's really high, and also gets us to that boost wind potency level 8, which is the sweet spot. We don't need any more magic attack. Got some HP options here. We do have Pulse Gun, which would give us some boost attack, which would increase our damage a little bit higher, which is cool. I think I'm down for that. And then the last option, we're just going to do a magic attack all allies. And we're going to use this one specifically. And there we go. So right now, that's going to put Cloud up to 9,200 magic attack, which is pretty strong. We're going to give her all the strongest magic attack materials that we have available. She doesn't have an extra sigil slot either, which is kind of a problem, but that's why we're doing this together. We're going to figure it out. Looks like this one gives us the highest magic attack stat, so we're going to go here. And that'll at least give us an option. And then for our last character, we're going to use Aerith. All right, so same strategy here. We're going to go ahead and get her built up. We want to get the Bahamut Rod on for that heal and an area of effect physical defense buff. We're going to bring in Crimson Staff, which is another magic attack all allies, but this is going to be our source of magic attack increase and magic defense decrease. This is a really good option for your magic damage teams. If you don't have this available, again, just bring in somebody that has a magic attack buff like Barrett with his Gutching Cannon. You've got some other options as well, including Matt if you've got his Luminary Sword from the holiday event. Obviously, that's not a limited weapon, that's a featured weapon. So if you have that featured weapon available, that's also another option for magic attack up. If you don't have either of those, you could always give Yuffie Crystal Cross. Crystal Cross is also a magic attack increase. And although it's single target, as long as somebody's getting that magic attack increase, it's really all that matters at the end of the day. The reason why we're bringing in specifically this Crimson Staff is just for the magic attack increase. Yuffie's Holiday Bell actually, while dealing damage, also lowers magic defense. So from the single target perspective, we should be covered for magic defense, but just want to make sure that we've got the magic attack covered, and that's why we're bringing that in. The other thing that we were looking for, we can probably look at something that just increases buff debuff extension. I've got a couple of options here. We've got the Soothing Song, which does buff debuff extension and also gives her a little bit of ATB at the beginning of every battle, which makes it a lot easier for her to get those buffs on quickly. Or we could use just the Bahamut robe, which increases our team's damage, gives her a little bit more defensive stats. Doesn't really matter. The options are yours. I'm going to go ahead with the ATB boost because I think that's going to be more fun. We're going to bring Breath of the Earth. And then we're going to give her all of the healing potency that we have available just to make sure that she can get some good heals in. Want to make sure we're bringing in at least 1x Sigil Break, because I'm not confident that this team will be able to do a very good job of getting that done. And then we're not worried about Darkness here because Darkness is already taken care of. So what we're going to do, because we're doing magic attacks, not physical attacks, so what we're going to do instead is we're going to bring in our Isuna Poison to make sure that we can clear off that poison in case we need it. Other than that, this should be relatively simple. Here's our Isuna Poison. I need to make a better Isuna Poison. It's not very good. I don't have the Aerith's ultimate weapon either, so that we're just going to be using the shop weapon. You can kind of see what her base stats here are. Her heal's not bad. And then obviously here, we're looking pretty weak on the physical defense side at this point. So we do want to try to bring in some options for physical defense. I'm going to give Aerith a specifically selfish physical defense weapon in terms of like, doesn't really matter. I think Buster Sword Origin gives a little bit more HP, which is nice. And then her other weapon here is going to be one of the guild weapons. Obviously, we talked about before, the last enemy has earth damage. So you can bring in Rocket Punch for a little bit of earth resistance to help out with that. And then the last weapon is just going to be another physical defense all allies weapon just to help bring that up a little bit higher. That'll end up getting her up to physical defense all allies, gets her up to level 4, which gives everybody an additional 30% defense, which should help make us tanking these enemy attacks a little bit easier. And that's going to be our magic damage team. This isn't going to be perfect. It's going to be a little bit more challenging because we don't have anything in OB10, and our only Arcanum wielder is rocking with a non-OB10 utility weapon. So let's hop into it and see how we do. So same strategy here. We're going to immediately head to the Behemoth fight because the Behemoth fight is the one that I'm most concerned about. And so the first thing we're going to use with this extra ATB for with Aerith is we're going to immediately buff our entire team's magic attack, right? So switch to Aerith. We're going to immediately use Crimson Fluorescence. And then just start DPSing as soon as we can. Let this last head thrash go down. We're going to go ahead and heal up. There we go. We can get one more heal down. I think these two attacks might actually take it out. It did indeed. So there you go. Behemoth drops before it even has a chance to use his first attack. Having 2 DPSs seems to make this a lot easier. Okay, that takes care of that. Primal Behemoth goes down, and remember, we're doing magic attack this time, so we're going to focus on anything that buffs our magic attack up. So you can see here we get magic attack plus 80 with a plus 2 to magic attack tier. We're going to take this one here, and we're going to hop in immediately to this zoo fight. The reason why we're doing this, by the way, is because these enemies in particular, if I remember correctly, are specifically weak to physical abilities. So the longer that you hold off on fighting these Garudas, and the longer you hold off on doing this zoo fight, it's going to be more challenging for your magic damage team. So we're going to hop into this one immediately. I did forget to bring Thunder for the enemies that are resistant to Thunder. I forgot about that. Okay. Shuriken Throw will help make things a little bit weaker. We're just going to start DPSing here. Actually, that did a lot of damage. Let's try to DPS this down and see if we can. I'm guessing probably not. Looking like no. Get our magic defense up and go ahead and block this. Not bad. About stunned. This should take it out. Oh, it didn't. Oh, well, I didn't mean to switch there. My bad. That was my fault. I hit the spacebar, my mistake. Yeah, we're fine. Good deal. We do need to go ahead and get our magic attack back up. I didn't realize that our magic attack buff dropped down, so that's why this is taking a little bit longer. This next attack should take it out. Nice. Okay. So that, yeah, that was a little bit dirty, but that's the reason why we wanted to do this fast, because these are much weaker to physical damage than they are to magic. So we do want to get this fight out of the way quick. Okay, so we're working on with magic damage. So obviously we don't want to worry about this summon potency one again, right? We do have the wind potency here. We've got wind potency up tier, but we don't have any wind bonuses here. So it looks like we're taking this again. Yes. Go ahead and fight these ads again. So this will be a little bit harder, but I'm hoping that Aerith will have enough damage here to be able to work it. And this is also why we brought Blade Beam. We're going to focus in on the middle one since we know this one heals. Go ahead and get a little cheeky heal in. Perfect. And then we're just going to use all of our summons here to take these things out. I really just want this fight gone. And so the sooner that we get these things taken care of, the better for me. And since we don't have an electric material, we're probably going to get most of our summon stuff back up anyways. Get this Blade Beam off. There we go. Perfect. That takes care of that. Obviously, Aerith's a little bit lower HP than she would be otherwise. I wasn't in defense mode for that attack. And if you're struggling with this too, make sure that you go into this with a fresh mindset, right? If you're struggling with one of the fights, you know, and you need to use a stimulant to get yourself healed back up, just use a stimulant, right? Just get yourself healed back up. That's not that big of a deal. If you need to use a tent, use a tent. You know, whatever gets you to clear it, and then you can go through in subsequent attempts and try to, you know, min-max your ability to deal damage, you know, etc., right? So, here we go again. Fighting the Gina Talk. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult, which is why I gave all of them an X sigil break. Go ahead and pop this off as well, pop this off as well, because we want to try to get this thing broken as quickly as possible, right? The sooner we get this broken down, the faster we'll be able to start dealing actual real damage. Two more and it's done. Here's the last one. Start spamming Crimson Fluorescence here. Get our magic defense increase and start dealing as much damage as we possibly can. Should only be a couple of these attacks and we should be out of here pretty quick. This time I blocked it. We are going to take a pretty decent chunk of damage here. Yep, should be okay though. It's just one more attack. An offense. And then these two attacks should take it out. Done. Okay, that was actually a little bit cleaner than the last one was. Obviously, we still took a huge chunk of damage there, but that's fine. Going into the Burn Tar fight, we're not too concerned about how much damage we've taken at this point because we are planning on using the Mega Elixir. And then here's where we get things to be a little silly. So now we're going to get the -1 physical or magic ability ATB, but we're also getting an extra 50% summon potency, which is pretty strong. So we're going to go ahead and click this one. Go ahead and take out the Cactars. Remember to just stay in offense mode for this. There's no reason to switch into defense mode if you're taking set damage. All right, there we go. Not too bad. We got our Mega Elixir here. We're still at a decent HP stat. We should be fine. We just need to make sure that when we go into this Burn Tar fight that we get our physical defense increased from Aerith's staff, and we should be good to go. Now, obviously, as you can see here, we're doing significantly less damage than I did with the Tifa fight, but these are still relatively easy fights with OB6+. Takes care of that. Get this one last heal off, and we should be at a decent HP for the fight. Perfect. Now Aerith's going to go into this fight with all of her ATB set to go, so that's going to make it very easy to get our physical defense buffs on. Now the idea here is we want to try to get this wind resist down to as many tiers as we can. Go ahead and switch to defense mode. And then we're going to use the Zantetsuken here to try to get the max damage buff or max damage hit as high as we can. Obviously, again, we want to make sure that we're in full gauge here. Get one more of these attacks off. We should be good to go. Perfect. Obviously, Breath of the Earth is just a heal. Don't tumble. And then here comes the Zantetsuken. This should do a good chunk of damage. 2.1, yeah, not bad. That's more damage than Cloud is dealing, obviously. And your results may vary. If you've got the Cloud Arcanum, you're probably going to be dealing much more damage than I am. If you've got the OB10 Holiday Blade, you're going to be doing more damage than I am. Same thing here, though. We're just going to do the score boost, wind potency, and single target ability because that's where most of our damage is coming through. Once again, we want to make sure that we got ourselves healed up and ready to go, so we're going to use that Mega Elixir. Mega Elixir gets everybody healed up. And I'm going to use that arrow on Yuffie and Cloud. And so the hope is that we'll be able to deal enough damage here to burst this thing down before it even has a chance to use that attack. Oh, not even close. Not even close. All right, so no big deal. That means you just switch to defense mode once it gets to this part. You're able to take that relatively nicely. Wait until it maxes out again. Keep doing damage. Keep our magic attack buff. Go ahead and interrupt it there. Just use our ults. 1.8. Yeah. So you see there, it did more damage with the other build, but that's just because my Tifa is much more well built than my Yuffie and my Cloud are for magic damage. But similar concept, right? Basically the same idea. You just want to walk in here with your DPSs, do as much damage as you can, and then this will take them out. There you go. So that's how the magic damage team would work. Same exact path. You're just going to be taking different rewards as a result to buff up your magic damage. And you can see here, my score is definitely going to be lower because this build is just not as strong as my physical one can do. But the goal of this is to get to 2.5 million points, which I got to 4.3. That's actually just a little bit under what we got to before. I think we were at 4.4 last time. So this actually was pretty good, all things considered. That wasn't too bad at all. So yeah, use whichever one works best for you. Obviously, there are, there's pros and cons to both. You don't have to pull on the Tifa banner if you've got these magic ones available. 4.3 million would put you near the top 150 right now. Obviously, this will change as people actually do the attempts here. This has only been out for, what, 18 hours at this point. So people will do this, and you can see up at the high score level here, you can see people are using Tifa, Aerith, Yuffie, Barret, Sid, Tifa. That's for probably the enfeeble effect, I could guess. Which means that if you have Kate Sith, that would actually work really well here as well, right? Kate Sith also buffs up physical attack and also gives that enfeeble effect. So food for thought there. And it's electric damage, which would help you with those adds in that random encounter. But yeah, you can see here that people are using 2 DPSs and just 1 support. Obviously, this works out just fine. You can see here, this one probably brought in Brilliant Collar for Red 13 for that wind potency increase to do some more damage. So lots of options here. Hopefully this video helped. If it did, make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. If you're having any trouble with this, feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know. Obviously, like I said, if you're working with a build that isn't quite as strong and you don't want to work on the Tifa banner, make sure that you're taking some of those rewards that help your build do better, right? So like at the beginning at that burn tar, you could do the burn tar fight first and give yourself minus 25% to max health reduction, and that'll make it so that you don't lose as much health as you take more damage. Also gives you some more defensive, right? Some defensive ability, which will make that big primal behemoth a little bit easier, and a myriad of other benefits, right? So make sure that you're keeping an eye on the other trance abilities that work best for your build. Appreciate y'all watching, and as always, we'll see you again in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.